Hello, and welcome to the Charlie Tolhurst show for today, the 30th of March. Yes, on a Thursday this week, live on YouTube. Yes, I'm your presenter, Charlie Tolhurst. Be rounding up the next hour or so of news, discussion, and plenty of chat about many different things, including politics, sport, and also the action from many newspapers this week as well. It's going to be a busy show tonight, guys. As always, I'm joined by my special guest and also political soprano Zach Chambers on the line now. Hello, Zach.
Hello, Charlie. Hello, mate.
Yeah, of course, Zach is my analyst on the show, so we are going to be chatting about all the latest news in around the world. Now, I just want to start off this show, guys, tonight by announcing some pretty heartbreaking news this week. This week, unfortunately, we lost a very much loved BBC television presenter, not just on the BBC, but on UK television. Paul O'Grady unfortunately passed away the other day at the age of 67. I just want to say Paul O'Grady was an absolute icon for British showbiz. He also used to present a very impressive show, actually, a very interesting show called For the Love of Dogs, which, if you're a lot of dog fan, Paul O'Grady's show was honestly so heartwarming for many dog owners. He loved dogs to pieces, and he also presented many other game shows as well, many other shows, radio as well. I mean, Zach, we have to start off this show, unfortunately, with the loss of a huge legend, but I am sure many people, including many celebrities, will remember Paul O'Grady as a very honourable and kind-hearted gentleman who was the face behind British showbiz.
Oh, yeah, I know, Charlie. I mean, it's obviously very sad news this week. I remember Paul O'Grady from the Paul O'Grady show. That was my first memory of him, actually, when I was a little child, actually, because that was on Channel 4. It was on ITV, and then it was on Channel 4, then it was on ITV. But I think it was about 4 or 5 o'clock in the evenings every day. And I sort of remember it. I was like, okay, I wouldn't watch it all the time, but I like occasionally I'd tune in. And the thing I most remember, it was not from him as a host, but remember the theme tune, all the music and all that sort of thing. And it was on every day. And to be fair, I honestly, I recognised the name straight away when I was obviously got to know him a little, obviously used to know him more as a television presenter, right? Okay. Then, you realise how much of an icon he was on, television and beyond. I mean, some of the stuff that he did. Remember, Paul O'Grady was, Paul O'Grady. But before that, he used to come in as Lily Savage, if you remember that. He was one of the first drag artists to actually go out on stage and go to comedy clubs. And in the 1980s, where, there was HIV around, there's AIDS, and the police would arrest anyone that was, basically gay there because they thought it was, it was all, they all thought they had AIDS and HIV. And one of the jokes that he made was that the police were there just to do, I think, was just to do the cleaning up or something like that with all their all their stuff on their hands and all that sort of thing as well. It was a funny little joke that he made. He just has such a really good joke. But there he is. You can see that that's his alter ego, Lily Savage. And he played that for so long. And I think he played that for many, many years. And I think there was a point, I think it was the mid-2000s at some point as well. Then he just decided to go back to his usual self. He then decided to go back to being Paul O'Grady. And he hosted so many shows. Blankety Blank. Was it Blankety Blank? I can't remember.
Something like that.
When we hosted it was some dating show that he hosted. I know he did that as well. He hosted the Paul O'Grady show. He had a regular Saturday show on Radio 2 as well. They got rid of him eventually as well. I think he decided to leave.
Wasn't that long ago as well, if you think about it. It was just only like about a week or so before he died.
Yeah, well, I think Radio 2 got rid of him about a year or two ago. Something like that.
Yeah.
But honestly, one of the things that honestly most resembles Paul O'Grady human was his love of dogs and animals. And he could share with any dog, an animal that would be there. He was just like the sweetest human being that he could be to these animals, and to care for them as well. You remember on the show he had, I think he had one of his famous dogs come on the show, Buster, I think it was his name, that would appear on the show regularly now and then, as well. And he'd always bring him in at the start of the show, just to sort of get the audience settled in and all that sort of thing. But yeah, he was a lovely character in real life. He was an ambassador for animals. He was an activist in many ways as well for certain rights, LGBTQ plus rights as well. Amanda Holden once, I think, went on Heart Radio this morning and sent something paid tribute that he wouldn't be one of those woke acts. Well, he was woke in many ways, to be fair. He was just, he wasn't exactly a fan of the government. I watched back this week, and I think he was talking about the budget in 2010, and he hated George Osborne with a passion. He went on one of his shows, and they did he went on a rant about the Tories and George Osborne particularly, as well. And that clip has been trending all last few weeks. To be fair, last few days. As well, so it was a funny rant. He could say whatever you want. You could say it and offend others as well, which is the main thing about comedy, is you can offend. And he offended. He took no matter who it is, he could offend as well. But he's a lovely human being. Lily Savage as his outer ego at the time was a funny comedy act, and honestly, he was himself. He was Lily. He was Paul. He wanted to be who he wants to be. He didn't necessarily shout with the arms on this and that and that. He'd obviously talk about, he's activism now and then, and he leaves behind a wonderful husband as well, who obviously has been grieving these last few days as well, and much the nation. But honestly, Paul O'Grady was a wonderful act and just a funny human being and just a great guy overall. And it leaves a huge hole in the world of comedy, and just the world, the UK in general, that an act like Paul O'Grady will be thoroughly missed. Whether he was Lily Savage or whether it was Paul O'Grady, he was just one of those just incredible comedians and acts and presenters that bring warmth, love, humour, and just a bit of fun to the television. And he'll be dearly missed by everyone here as well, and by those who were very close to him. And just want to say, rest his little peace, because he leaves behind such a lovely memory, and just so many good laughs along the way. And I have to say, we're going to miss him so much as he lies there, as he now rests in peace, and his memories are going to be made a blessing.
Well, all I can say is, being a comedian as well, he was an iconic comedian for the time of his generation. And I have to say as well, we can confirm, unfortunately, that Paul O'Grady did unfortunately suffer a heart attack. It was reported on the news. I have to say, it's a very dark day. It's a very sorrowful moment for the UK showbiz community. We only lost Sean Locke just the other year as well. So another brilliant comedian, someone who was very, very talented, used to be on 8 out of 10 Capsters Countdown. Remember that show very well with Sean Locke on it, Jimmy Carr and that lot as well. One of the team captains was Sean Locke on that show. But yeah, no, for Paul O'Grady, it's a huge loss. Whether you like him or not, he will be a huge legacy for British showbiz and comedy as well. That's all I can say on that one. But moving on now to the crunch news stories of the week. Let's start now with the news that I have been literally waiting for so long now. And that is, we've finally had the official identity being released of the name of the suspect who shot Olivia Pratt-Corbell last year. Thomas Cashman has now been named. I have to say, why didn't they announce this suspect name so much earlier? Obviously, Olivia Pratt-Corbell was shot last year at her home in Liverpool. And we have to remember, that crime in young people is now rising across this country. And a 9-year-old being shot is an absolute tragedy that must never happen. We must keep our kids safe. We must keep everyone safe in the community. But Zach, I have to say this: Thomas Cashman must have been absolutely vile with his actions.
Oh, honestly, it must have been a severely vile act, as well. It's a horrible act as well. So he was a convicted, self-confessed drug dealer, as well. The fact that you remember the last we reported this about a couple of months ago. Actually, there was a shooting to the family home of Olivia Pratt-Coble as well, and then we didn't know the identity at the time. This is Thomas Cashman, found guilty of murder, attempted murder, wounding with intent to degree his body's harm to Olivia's mother, and 2 charges of possession of firearms, all being found guilty of that by a jury in the Manchester Crown Court, as well. Obviously, Cashman fired shots into the family home. Prosecutors called it a ruthless pursuit to execute another man. But in the end, he got the victim was the 9-year-old. An awful victim in many ways as well. It's a very sad and very heartbreaking, cowardly act by this by Thomas Cashman, as well. It's an insane attempt to be doing these sort of crimes, especially to a 9-year-old, another harassing the family as well. As well. Now, obviously, he's due to be sentenced eventually, as well. But we know he's been as well. But he's been found guilty at the end of that, and it's a welcome verdict, I should say, as well. It was a horrendous crime, as well. The fact that he's dealing drugs, as well, it's obviously pretty bad in many ways. And I just honestly, the family have always been going through torture for the last few months now, and it's not great to see. I mean, the fact is, why the idea that you kill a 9-year-old, as well, is really bad. Yeah, hang on, two secs, man.
Yeah, we can confirm that my colleague Zach, my analyst Zach has
it's right back.
Yeah, we're back now. I'll just update you on the story quickly. So Thomas Cashman, 34, was killed Olivia and injured her mother, Cheryl Corbell, as the chase. A fellow drug dealer into their home on the evening of the 22nd of August. There were gasps and tears in court as he was convicted, with Miss Corbell later saying she felt ecstatic. Merseyside police said Cashman was not worthy of walking the streets.
Yeah, pretty much. And I agree with that analysis as well. If the fact that you're doing drug dealing, you're going around trying to go into, going to a family home, harassing one, and then threatening families, is someone who doesn't deserve to walk the street. And I expect, hopefully, once he's sentenced, to hopefully a long time in prison, perhaps life, hopefully, then he'll probably never be able to see the streets again. I mean, the fact that I've used the word never go on the street, be seen in the streets again, suggests to me that this person is going to get a life sentence. I don't know whether it will probably at least 30 years, I imagine, probably 30, 40 years, I imagine, before the payroll could be considered for the payroll board. But I imagine it will be life, if based on the sort of wording alone as well. So I can imagine it will be a pretty hefty sentence, and rightly so. I hope it is a hefty sentence, because that was hideous and cowardly act that we did there.
Yeah, we pay our tributes to Olivia Pratt-Corbell on this show. I think it's a horrifying shooting that should never have happened in the first place. And please comment down below, guys, what you make to the latest crime events happening across the UK. Obviously, speaking of that, the Prime Minister also addressed some issues on crime over the last few days in Chelmsford as well, where we'll come on to that more a bit later on in the show. Now, moving on, staying with the UK government now. Now, if you are a fan of, let's say if you're a fan, if you think that migrants crossing the channel is anything to shout about, well, certainly it is a national crisis in escalation right now. Now, the government have announced interesting plans to essentially stop asylum seekers crossing the channel. Now, the plans being drawn up by the Immigration Minister, Robert Jenrick, over the last few days have been very, very weird and, quite simply, very bizarre. Basically, the government are planning on, yes, you wait for it, housing migrants in cruise ships, and some weird other kind of interesting noun that they've discovered. Yes. Obviously, we have the migrant hotels at the moment, which are causing mayhem, I have to say. All the processing plants, protests have been happening because all these illegal migrants have been crossed over the channel. The numbers are still quite high. I mean, I haven't seen the channel crossings for a while yet in terms of the actual figures, but I have to say, Zach, I mean, we had a big debate on, I think, with this the other day, I think in PMQs, or in the House of Commons this week, where Suella Braverman was questioned in the chamber. What do you make to the latest proposals made by the Home Secretary on this particular issue?
Well, it's interesting because if you look at this in the real picture, it appears the Tories can't even unite themselves on this issue. I mean, this is the latest proposal, if you look at it, so rather than using hotels to obviously put in, migrants in, people are fed up with that. They want to move migrants out of hotels, and I think there's a general consensus that they should be moved out of hotels. Very understandable on that part. Now, the plan is to... Now, the thing is, where would you put them if not in the hotel? Obviously, you don't want to put them on the street and homelessness, because I think that would look really bad on the government. So, what the government is planning to do, I see, is put them into 3 sites. One of them are I think, 2 military bases. And I think they're also trying to use as well... I can't remember what it was. It's barrels or something like that. I think it's... carriages or cargo, something like
that. Yeah. So I know Rishi Sunak was talking about once before housing them on cruise ships or something, which sounded a bit interesting.
And I remember something that the government, when Johnson was in charge, and I remember Rishi Sunak saying behind the scenes, according to sources, from various sources, that that he was saying that these sort of plans would be too expensive and cost a lot of money. Well, I mean, hotels do cost a lot of money, but apparently the barges and the ex-ships things would cost even more money. So the fact that it's even going ahead now suggests is that, you know, this is when Rishi Sunak was in Johnson's government, by the way. So this is obviously a little while ago. Now, if it's too expensive, then you think it's going to probably be a lot more expensive now. And the second observation I have to make out of this policy as well is there's obviously, like I said, the Tories can't even unite themselves on this. Now, James Cleverly, obviously the member for Braintree, and obviously the Foreign Secretary. Now, he obviously supports the government's plan for this. What he doesn't support is a plan, because, you know, these bases that they want to do is they put these migrants in military bases. Well, he supports the plan to do that, but when it comes to housing them in his constituency of Braintree, he's a NIMBY. He does not. He's trying to fight. He's trying to support with the Braintree Council to fight against this plan to put migrants and asylum seekers on a military base near his town of Braintree. Now, for someone who supports government policy of that, but then doesn't support it on his own land, Jane Cleverly will have to rethink his idea of supporting it if he doesn't want it on his own land. I think this reveals the whole hypocrisy of Conservatives, right? Okay, on this issue. They want solutions and they need ideas, but when it comes to putting it on their own land, they're saying like, no, not us. Someone has to go and give. Okay, if you don't want it there, it's got to go somewhere. If you don't want the hotels, then, you know, put in bases. Then fine. But if you don't want it's got to go somewhere. They can't just go nowhere. Something has to be the solution. I mean, Edward Lee was, you know, is a Conservative MP in Lincolnshire. He's also opposed to plans as well, despite the fact that he supports the government policy on this. So it's a test to see where this eventually goes up. The government wants to put them in Essex. They want to put them in Lincolnshire and East Sussex as well, which can house several thousand of these immigrants as well. It's quite stunning to see certain Conservative MPs support the plan to do that, but when it comes to doing it in their own area, they don't like it. They don't want them anywhere near them. And this is a problem. Where are you going to put them if you don't want them in your own area? I mean, yeah, obviously preserve quiet towns, but oh my goodness me, if you're going to support the policy, be prepared for your own, your own idea that it's going to be placed in your constituency. And this is going to be a big issue where James cleverly looks at it like a bit of a slap in the face on this one, especially as well on this issue, that he's a member of the government supporting this policy, but when it comes to supporting it in his own area, nah, get out, NIMBY, off. Not in my backyard. Oh man, I can't get over it. It is stunning that I can support it and not support it at the same time. So they've got to go somewhere, but where? They can't go. They can't go flatline over Earth. Are we going to put them in balloons, overlooking every constituency in the UK? Got to go somewhere, haven't they?
Lou, what's the point of sticking a migrant on inside a hotel and then sticking them out on the? It's just, I don't understand it. It's just absolutely maniacal what's happening here. And speaking of this, there's a video of some people in Essex, yes, in my home county of Essex, because I believe the government did, Rishi Sunak, Prime Minister, and Suella Braverman, the Home Secretary, I think apparently visited Chelmsford the other day talking about antisocial behaviour. This was them walking through Chelmsford High Street being heckled by onlookers. Have a listen to this. There we go. That was a short clip there of the population of Chelmsford City there. Basically, a woman attacking the government over the migrant plans. Yeah, very, very interesting to say the least there on that issue. Because it's shaken, not stirred in many of these facts. So, yeah. And that's all I can say. Moving on now to a pretty horrifying accident in America, where there has been a pretty nasty military accident. I mean, Zach, do you know what's the latest on this huge event in America at the moment?
Yeah, so I believe this is an incident that happened in Kentucky. So there was, the latest that I'm reading is that there are 9 dead after 2 US Army Black Hawk helicopters crashed. As well, I believe this was conducting nighttime training during in Kentucky as well. But obviously, this is I imagine precautionary standard practice that this happens in Kentucky. That they do a little bit of military training. It's very, very usual. There's nothing unusual about that. They do it during they have to do it during the day and during the night as well. But what happened was 10 p.m. Kentucky time or Eastern time, Wednesday, there was 2 HH-60 Black Hawk helicopters. They were part of the 101st Airborne Division and crashed. It was in Trigtown County. It happened about 30 miles northwest of Fort Campbell as well. They both landed in a field near a residential area, no injuries on the ground. But as I understand it, one helicopter had 5 on board and the other had 4 as well. So it looks like all 9 of those people that on those 2 helicopters have been killed as well. And there was major obviously damage to the helicopters as well. And they're all set alight. There's no one in the ground was injured, but 9 of them on board were sadly killed as well. It was a pretty nasty incident, I must say, as well. This is part of training that they have to do, but it's obviously going to go when this sort of thing happens. It obviously something's gone wrong with the training, and something's gone a bit badly wrong, and they need to obviously avoid colliding into each other because in a helicopter, if you crash, you're very likely to be killed in many ways. And if you crash badly. And that's the last thing that we really want to happen, especially in training as well. This is almost a daily occurrences. Flyovers happen daily. Helicopters are pretty low, but not too close. So this is an incident that should be investigated as well. But there's 9 souls, unfortunately, that have lost their life in this incident as well. And this is obviously very close to the Tennessee border, where honestly, Tennessee had its own difficulties itself this week with a number of shootings near a school that's happened there as well. So yeah, obviously, I'm a very unfortunate incident in Kentucky as well, and yeah, just this is it's training that appears to go on totally wrong.
It's a horrible event. I think there's a lot of people out there right now who are certainly feeling the effects of that crash in Kentucky. And my thoughts are with all those who've lost loved ones in that horrifying crash in America right now in Kentucky. It's a pretty horrifying event. So yeah, that's all I can say. Moving on now to Conversation Corner now. We're going to be talking about music again. Now, we would have seen the other week we spoke about Queen, but we're going to go much newer this week and talk about someone. If you guys are into your rapping, yes, we're talking about a rapper this week. You might know this rapper here is actually a rapper that's very, very famous. Collaborated with many artists over the last few years. I'm actually going to talk about a rapper called Kanye West today. Now, obviously, Kanye West is a bit political at times, but we're not going to go on political terms. We're going to be talking about Kanye West with his music, because Kanye West is obviously he's also an American singer-songwriter as well, but also is a rapper, mainly a rapper, of course. He was born in 1977. He's currently 45 years old. But he's had some interesting hits actually over the years. Kanye West, as you guys would have known, he has been a part. Received acclaim for his production work on the Jay-Z's The Blueprint, which was an album as well. He also released an album called The College Dropout as well, which is a very, very famous album that was released in 2004 as well, which featured some R&B records as well. The album also featured contributions from Jay-Z, Moss Fox, Jamie Foxx, Selena Johnson, and Ludacris as well. It was actually, funny enough, Lewis Hamilton's actually favourite album as well, when he was asked the question. Also features the songs such as Through the Wire and The New Workout Plan as well. So plenty of albums that Kanye West has done. He's also recorded a song with Rihanna as well, called 4 or 5 Seconds, which, if you have heard that song before, very, very interesting. Zach, what do you make to Kanye West's involvement in the rap music world?
Yeah, let's separate his political anti-Semitic views as well with his actual music. Let's separate the two, because one's pretty good and one's pretty awful and deserves condolences and that stuff. So the political stuff, yeah. I mean, the anti-Semitic stuff that he came out with about Jewish people in the past, yeah, he's a knobhead for that one. But let's separate that and let's talk about his music, because actually, he's been quite controversial in the music scene actually as well. But he's also created quite catchy music as well. I mean, he's sold 160 million records worldwide. He's won 24 Grammy Awards. He's had 75 nominations, the joint 10th most of all time, joint most of any rapper with Jay-Z. As well, joint recognition, 3 Brits Awards for Best International Male Soloist, and the Michael Jackson Music Vanguard Award. 6 of Western albums, including the Rolling Stone 200, 2025, the greatest album of all time, as well. And yeah, it all started, let's just say as well. He started Rockefeller and everything like that. He came in actually in 19, produced 8 tracks on Down to Earth for a Chicago rapper called Grav. In 98, he was the first person to sign a management for hip hop since 1978 as well. And yeah, he contributed to a few other artists as well. And he produced for other artists as well. And he credited, he's also worked, as you know, with Jay-Z, on the Blueprint, which rated as one that Rolling Stone rated one of the greatest hip hop albums of all time. As well, he also crafted hit song for Ludacris, Alicia Keys, Janet Jackson, as well. And then, you know, he was previously, you know, you wouldn't believe this as a fact. He was previously involved in a car accident which shattered his jaw. You know, and he recorded the Through the Wire as well. That was his first song recorded before that accident. He released it first from his new mixtape Get Well Soon 2002. And then he started work on The College Dropout, whose overall thing was make your own decisions, don't let society tell you this is what you have to do, as well. So he started, you know, releasing a few songs then. He recently out first album 2004, reached number 2 in the Billboard 200. His debut single Through the Wire peaked at 15, and it features songs such as Slow Jams, which is Twist to Jamie Foxx. As well, Jesus Walk was another one that was a big single as well. And then he started producing a bit more songs as well. Stronger, he sampled Daft Punk as well. Stronger was one of his probably big ones as well. In many ways as well. West was also famous for that little scene in 2009 when he went on to the MTV Music Videos Award. He went on to grab the microphone for her to play the that Beyonce deserved the award instead, as well, and which he was criticised from various celebrities as well. Barack Obama called him a jackass, and it sent for a lot of media otherwise as well. But then he revitalized his you know, career as well, and then he started collaborating with the likes of Jay-Z, Pusha T, and then released his 5th album in 2010. It was saying it was a solid comeback. It included All the Lights, was a brilliant song, by the way. Power, Monster, Runaway, all these some very, very catchy, famous songs as well. You know, he's been, you know, often like on and on, and then he released The Life of Pablo, Real Friends, as well, Faded, as well, and he's really also released songs with Little Pump. That was a famous one as well. I think it was called I Love It at the time, as well. And he's also, you know, Wash It in the Blood, as well, which is actually a really good song, I must say, as well. That was lead single from Donda, you know, and then he released Na 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 as well. And, you know, he's not as seen on the music career now, probably because of his comments and, you know, associations of things. But being fair, during the 2010s, he was brilliant. He was awesome. He produced catchy, fun, uplifting music, and then he went to quite serious undertones and then sort of slower. And then this sort of way quality dropped a little bit. But to be fair, he is at his peak in the 2010s, no doubt about it, where he released such awesome music that, you know, Spotify fans would chart it up and everything like that as well. And radios would take to death as well. Radio 1 played a lot of songs from his that was pretty as well, pretty good. And yeah, so yeah, you know, if he was a political person, then many would dismiss him off. But as a music artist, let's separate them from that, because he was really good at like that, and he was brilliant. And it's a shame I wish he'd stick to music, because otherwise, if it was not for those politics and the anti-Semitic views, then he could be more of a hero today than he was, you know, a few months ago, where he was pretty much the villain for a certain amount of weeks.
There was a lot of support. I heard that he endorsed President Trump once as well, if I remember. There was a bit of debate on something like that as well. But I have to say, in terms of Kanye West's career, he's had a very successful career. As I said, 4 or 5 Seconds was another song that was actually released in collaboration with Rihanna and Paul McCartney, which is a great song, by the way. I think you should go and check it out. Now, there was one time where I was watching this a few years ago, it might have been the Brit Awards, where he went on the stage and the whole performance had to be audio muted because there was a lot of swearing. I don't know what song he performed, but there was a big old performance that where literally they had to edit out a lot of the script that what he was singing that day.
Yeah, I you know, it's quite incredible actually if you think about it, as well. Yeah, I mean, you know, the thing is about it, Kanye is such an unpredictable person. He can be this normal guy that can talk about a lot of things, go through a lot. I mean, he was once married to Kim Kardashian. That's how famous he is. yeah, he goes a bit off the nuts sometimes. He can put good musical performances, and then like you said as well, he got really off the script, and then here we go, he's off for one. And yeah, he's such a wild character sometimes. Unfortunately, as we've seen over the last few months as well, it can turn negative. He can turn it to quite a lot of negatives. I mean, dining with Nick Frutinus as well was put the straw, and then DEFCON to Jews, as he called it as well, was just another horrible, unnatural action that really did not. He really shouldn't have not said. It was a pretty awful statement that he made, and rightly got condemned for some of his comments as well. It was pretty bad as well. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I would separate Kanye as a person to Kanye as a music. I'd stick to Kanye as a music artist because he's much better on that front compared to what he was.
He's certainly interesting in a career in politics, isn't he? I don't know whether he'll be backing Trump at the next US presidential candidate. I don't know. I know he's got links with Donald Trump as well. But yeah, it's very interesting. That is Conversation Corner tonight on the Charlie Tolhurst Show live on YouTube. It's now time for the sport briefing, where we're going to now be talking about all the latest sports news, starting off with Formula One and the Australian Grand Prix this weekend. My least favourite. It's one of my least favourite tracks on the calendar. I don't want to bash Albert Park a lot, but you know, the track just, it's a weird one, you know, because this circuit feels a bit kind of like, surely Silverstone is much more better, I have to say. I feel like Silverstone's a very fun track. We've got some racing this weekend. I do say I think the new improvements do make it interesting, but this weekend we have a early, should I say, at 6 o'clock race in the morning. There's going to be an early start, so many people will be up early. I was up early for work today. I have to say, I think really, Zach, I have to say, Red Bull at the moment looking the most dominant after Jeddah.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Red Bull, obviously the most favourites to win this. No doubt about it. Now, this is a little bit more trickier circuit. This one, this is a little bit less fast than the likes of Saudi Arabia. This is a completely different circuit. This is on a street circuit. It's a bit more tighter. It's a bit more bendy. As well, there's a lot more corners to this as well. So, I mean, Red Bull will be faster in sector 2, no doubt about it. But it's a little bit more, you'd say a bit more of a higher medium downforce circuits as well. So, yeah, it will all start out being a little bit more twisty in the turn 1 and 2, 3 as well. So, I must admit, the final section, the first section, will be crucial. On the about it. There's going to be a mixed downforce in this one. That's going to be really key to be seeing how long the tyres can last, how long they can go as well. And don't forget as well, Melbourne is a little bit of a tricky circuit to overtake on. As well. There's a few overtaking opportunities across the corner circuit, but overall, it's a lot more tricky than say Bahrain. Overall as well. I mean, I'd say it's less difficult than Saudi, but it's still pretty difficult overall. But this one should suit, really, to be fair, Ferrari a little bit more, and hopefully Mercedes in some ways as well. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be a fast-flowing circuit with a lot of corners as well. And it's obviously suits the F1 cars quite well. It's going to be hard on the tyres. Friday and Saturday are going to be important because Friday looks like it might be rainy. Saturday it may be wet for qualifying, potentially. We don't know yet. Might be in the morning, and when we get to the afternoon, it may dry out. But we're going to have a slick track. But in Sunday, it's going to be a crucial one to preserving the tyres as well as strategy on this circuit as well. It's fast, but it's also tight. There's a lot of slow sections as well. So it's one of those street circuits that will get you moving. As well, and you've got to be quick on the action, and there's very little room for mistakes here, I have to say as well. I mean, there's sort of fast-packed areas that you can't make mistakes on. You look at like sort of key corners. I think for me will be certainly Brabham and Jones in many ways as well. And if you can't make the only other opportunity you could make to overtake is that Prost in 15 as well. Clark is obviously the new corner at 9. As well, going to 10, that's the new fast section as well. It's a lot more faster going to 11 and 12. But yeah, overall, this circuit once they get a good race, can provide a lot of action but overtaking at times will be difficult.
Certainly around this track, Zach, and we've seen many unpredictable races here at Albert Park over the years. I remember the first time they ever went there, 1996, Martin Brundle involved in a pretty nasty accident. It was actually, I think, some of the pundits that were on Sky Sports and Channel 4, David Coulthard, Martin Brundle, Johnny Herbert, all get involved in that crash. Oh, I wish they all remember it very well. Martin Brundle walked away from that crash pretty actually unscathed. I think he was driving the McLaren at the time, I remember. But it's a nasty crash. 2002, Rubens, Ralph, it was a huge contact between Rubens Barrichello and Ralph Schumacher, causing a chain reaction. 8 cars were eliminated on the first lap there.
Yeah.
My most memorable Albert Park moment probably has to be 2009 when Brawn GP, out of nowhere, as a Honda team a year before, actually got a 1-2 finish. So there's plenty of unpredictability at this circuit, isn't there, for Formula One in terms of the history of racing?
Absolutely. I think there's definitely a lot of unpredictability as well. Anything could really happen, to be fair, as well. We've seen, races won and lost in the pit lane. We've seen it run and lost across a couple of like turns 2 or 3 as well. But strategy, I think, will play a huge part here as well. And managing the tyres are going to be critical as well, because the fast bit and the bends and that sort of area as well. So it's going to be key, getting track position as well, and not making mistakes at any much of the corners as well. Good reliability is key to qualifying, because obviously you want to get a move up the circuit as well. But yeah, there's not much opportunity for overtaking. There's some opportunities, but there's not much as overall.
It's going to be an interesting race. Formula One will be back tomorrow for the Australian Grand Prix. You'll be able to watch that on Sky Sports F1, unless many of you guys are early risers, which will be the theme of this weekend's race, given the huge time span between the United Kingdom and United States. Moving on now to NASCAR. The last race took place at COTA, and I watched the race this time around, so I can explain to you who won it. It was, of course, Tyler Reddick, who actually, I believe, from what I heard, won a couple of road course races, I think, last season, if I remember, all seasons before, and someone called him the king of road courses, one of the commentators. But yes, winning at COTA. This year's race, thankfully, not rained out, which was good. We have got the results for you here of the Cup Series event that happened at COTA, Circuit of the Americas. Kyle Busch took second position. Alex Bowman was third. Ross Chastain fourth in the number 1 Chevrolet. William Byron was fifth, despite having unpredictability around him with many after a late collision, which took out a few drivers. Austin Cindric was 6th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was 7th. Chris Buescher 8th. Ty Gibbs 9th. Todd Gillen taking the final point. But the DNFs there, Christopher Bell, Ryan Preece, Austin Dillon, A.J. Allmendinger, Brad Keselowski involved in a pretty big shunt down at the first corner. I mean, Zach, this race was, again, full of unpredictable action.
And if I remember, Charlie, it took 3 attempts to get a clean finish overall. 3 overtimes to get a finish as well. But Tyler Reddick, king of the road courses. I mean, another road course win for Tyler Reddick after what was an eventful finish as well. He finished ahead of Kyle Busch in second position as well. 50 points for Tyler Reddick, 39 for Kyle. Alex Bowman, third position, but obviously got more points. Obviously, finished in the stages as well, ahead as well. By the way, the stage races, interesting enough, will run without caution periods. So basically, what I explained that. So normally, when you end the stage, you throw a caution, then there'll be a few laps under caution, then you restart the next stage as well. This went the stage went without caution this time. Meaning when the stage finishes, then they don't throw the caution for that. They're going straight to the next stage as well. So it was a little bit of a different format this time on the road courses. And I think it was a good idea in general, but it makes, I don't know why they do what they, if there's no point of the stages on the road course, we're not going to throw cautions, to be fair. But yeah, Tyler Reddick was a good victory after all that overtimes as well. Alex Bowman third, he said Ross Chastain fourth. Oh, pretty good name. William Byron fifth, a good start for him after stay as well. Austin Cindric sixth as well. As you said, Stenhouse seventh, Chris Buescher eighth, Ty Gibbs ninth, and Todd Gillen 10th. I want to give a shout out to Jenson Button, 18th position. I think that's a very good result for road course race for him. Very, very good result. He was at 33rd at some point. He was dropping back to the field. But 18th is a very good. I think he should be really happy with that finish, actually. I think he was happy with that finish as well. A good first race in NASCAR as well. He's ahead of likes to know Gregson, Ryan Blaney, and even finished ahead of Daniel Suarez, Logano. Kimi Räikkönen 29th, I think it's respectable. I mean, it was only the second last runner on that one, to be fair, but I think you should be respected for that one. I think they're putting the effort there as well. And then you had DNF as well. Tied in Jimmy Johnson getting involved in an accident early on. Bubba Wallace also getting damaged as well. Brad Keselowski beaching the car, as well as Austin Dillon and Christopher Bell all got involved in that Lowe's last accident. A couple of accidents as well. Obviously got caught up in it as well, and unfortunate for them in many ways. So yeah, caught up in it as well. And obviously we talked about the Xfinity. We went through the Truck Series race last time. We talked about this as well. But in the Xfinity Series race, it was AJ Allmendinger that won ahead of William Byron and Ty, giving no points for those lot because they will take part in the Cup Series. In fact, the highest point scorer, if I remember rightly, looking at this, was Sam Creed, who finished 9th, actually got the most points thanks to stage positioning. The highest points, the one that finished, one that the points run that finished work best was Sammy Smith in 4th position as well. Now, this weekend, it's Richmond time. It will be the Toyota in 400 at Richmond. The Cup and Xfinity Series are in action this weekend as well at Richmond. The Truck Series is in action this weekend, but it's going to be at Texas rather than Richmond. That's on at 9:30 UK time on Saturday. I'll probably just be going to bed by then to get up to watch the Grand Prix. But nevertheless, there's trucks are at a different location compared to the Cup and Xfinity. They're at Texas this weekend. That'll be twinned with IndyCar, which is also on that weekend as well. Also at Texas as well. We'll probably go over that next time we talk and everything like that when we get to do the show and all that. But yeah, if you want to go through the standings so far, actually, let's have a first look at the standings actually this season after several races as well. Alex Bowman is the one leading. He's got the most points, but William Byron will be. He got 2 wins as well.
Yeah.
So the likes of William Byron, Kyle Busch, Logano, at the moment, Tyler Reddick, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. all have playoff positions as they got victory. The ones on points so far are Alex Bowman, Ross Chastain, as well. They are the ones that got the most points, but William Byron leads alone based on victories. He's got 2. Anyway, if you have a victory, remember, if you have a victory, then you go off. You are also, as long as you finish within certainly in the top, I think it's the top 30. Then you go to the playoff. There are 16 positions overall. If 16 different drivers win, then that's the 16 coveted. If more than 16 drivers win across the season, then it'll be based on points, wins and points. And if no more than 16, if less than 16 drivers win, then the rest of it will be determined by how many points you have overall. Yeah. So, based on points, if 15 others qualified via wins, the rest of them fail to win a race, then Alex Bowman will go into the playoff alone based on points. So that's how it works. We don't have to worry about that because we've got until September to worry about that, but there will be lots of implications going through the season as well, and we talk about it as well.
Yeah, that's all the NASCAR action there from COTA. We're back next weekend in Richmond. Now it's time to talk about the football now, and we have a lot of news in this. Now, for fans of Tottenham Hotspur, Antonio Conte has now departed the club just over the week. This week, he got sacked after that 3-3 draw with Southampton. We do have Premier League fixtures this weekend, which will cover. Obviously, England played their international fixtures that last weekend. We can confirm they did beat Ukraine. I think 2-0 in that match, I remember. So England winning the football there. This weekend, we'll see big matches. Manchester City playing Liverpool at 12:30 on Saturday. Then it's Bournemouth and Fulham, Nottingham Forest, Wolves, Crystal Palace, Leicester, Arsenal, Leeds, Brighton and Brentford, all the 3:00 kickoffs on Saturday. Then we have the evening kickoff on Saturday, which will see Chelsea playing at home against Aston Villa, both around separate points on the table, interestingly. Then we have on Sunday some big games, particularly a big relegation scrap between West Ham and Southampton. One of those teams if they win, could put themselves potentially out of the relegation zone. We don't know that, but West Ham and Southampton playing a must-win there for both teams. Newcastle, Manchester United play on Sunday at 4:30, and then on the Monday, managerless Tottenham at the moment take on Everton away. Tottenham playing away against Everton. Zach, what do you make to the latest Premier League fixtures?
Yes. First of all, as you said, Antonio Conte's now gone. Not surprising, really, to be fair. As well, I mean, he was pretty much slagging off the club before that as well. I mean, Tottenham have had a little bit of a difficult week as well. I think their sporting director has been banned worldwide from participating in football activities. Fabio Proiettiti, he's been given a step away from his role. He's been given a 30-month ban from Italian football after his former club was found guilty of false accounting. So with Antonio Conte going and Proiettiti being suspended internationally, Tottenham have had a really difficult week as well. Now, Christian Stellini is the one that's in charge at the moment alongside Ryan Mason. So Monday's fixture is going to be the first key fixture. It's against Everton, who has been struggling at the bottom as well, who are trying to get their way out under Sean Dyche, who's made a reasonably okay start, you must say as well. That'll be on the Monday. But I want to go over quickly, if that's right with you, Charlie, the Euro qualifying results since we last spoken, actually. So I'm going to continue the ones that are on match day 2. Yes, as we know, England will take on Ukraine. We won that one 2-0. Very good performance overall. It was only Harry Kane, and that managed to get the 37th minute goal as well. And then Bukayo Saka 3 minutes later as well. Great goals from them too. It's the two key players for us that really do really well on that one. Ukraine had a better second half, but failed to score anything in that second half, so we won that one as well. The other one I want to talk about is on Northern Ireland, Finland. Finland beating Northern Ireland 1-0 as well. Northern Ireland lost that one. It was Benjamin Coleman in the 28th minute scored for Finland, and therefore promoted their victory as well in match day 2 of that one. So that's already a loss and a win for Northern Ireland in this early stage of the competition as well. The other match I want to talk about as well, there's 2 other matches, I think there's 3 other matches I want to talk about as well from the home nations as well. Ireland lost 1-0 against France as well. It was actually, I mean, France pretty much dominated. It was Benjamin Pavard in the 50th minute that scored for France and defeated the Republic of Ireland as well. The other 2 I want to discuss: Wales winning 1-0 against Latvia. That's a good result for them, I have to say. It was Kiefer Moore in the 41st minute that managed to recover the game for Wales. I mean, they had most possession most of the time anyway. And the big victory, I have to say as well, Charlie, came on Tuesday when Scotland beat 2-0 Spain 2-0 on a victory for them. A big victory for Scotland. And I think that ended, I believe, as well from the statistics, Spain's 13-match win streak in European qualifiers overall and internationals. Spain had the most possession, but Scotland took the chance when it needed to be. Scott McTominay, I watched this match. It was a brilliant match for Scotland. Scott McTominay, 7th minute, 51st minute. Great match overall for Scotland. That's 2 wins from 2. A great start as well, beating Spain in the Euro qualifiers as well. They all return in June as well. I should point out, but on to this weekend's games. As you said, Charlie, as well, Premier League fixtures this weekend. The big one is on Saturday, I have to say, is on Man City v Liverpool. Quite a feisty fixture over the years. Man City needs to win this one, obviously, to get. They are 8 points behind. Winning that would put them 5 behind Arsenal, who play at 3:00 that day against Leeds. There's other key fixtures as well. I have to say, there's key fixtures of Nottingham Forest, Wolves, Palace, and Leicester. This will be Palace's Roy Hodgson's first game in charge since returning to Palace as well. That's going to be a crucial game. That as well. But as you said as well, there's also another crucial game on Sunday as well. I mean, there's Chelsea Aston Villa on Saturday. It's 5:30. West Ham Southampton. That's a relegation battle one. Definitely a very big match for 2 of these teams as well. Either those two teams wins, then they could get out of the relegation zone. Newcastle and Man United rerun the Carabao Cup match on the Sunday 2nd as well. Both fighting for top 4 ambitions. Amazing. And then on Mondays, as I said as well, it's Antonio Conte's first game without Antonio Conte, as well, and Everton v Spurs as well. And then next week as well, there's some rearranged fixtures as well. I should point out next week as well. They include some critical relegation battles as well, and key big fixtures. So the big one is going to be on Tuesday, Chelsea, Liverpool. And there's others as well. I think you need to watch out. Leeds v Nottingham Forest is another one. I think that's be crucial. For West Ham, Newcastle, Man United v Brentford, another top battle as well on the Thursday as well. So yeah, lots on the Wednesday. So lots to look out for next week as well in terms of matches and Premier League fixtures ahead.
Yep, and also Arsenal will play Leeds at the weekend as well on the 1st, and Chelsea and Aston Villa will be another big match as well to enjoy watching. So that's all the Premier League news. Wow, mouthful of football fixtures there to talk about. Now it's time to Charlie's good news, and we're going to be talking all about Tesco today. The new initiative set up by Tesco to improve the shopper experience has been trialled, yes. Now, I want to talk to you guys about Tesco's unique system in which they've only got a couple of these stores located in the country. Now, what do you think this is called? Well, I give you Tesco Get Go. Yes. What is a Tesco Get Go store? Well, I just want to say this is an old article, but I want to talk to you about how it works because it's very, very clever, this is. Now, Tesco trialled the Get Go stores last November. The expansion of the trial, which will include 2 stores in London and another in Birmingham, will allow customers more time to shop and pay without scanning a product or using a checkout. For the first time, these new stores will offer customers the option of using a self-service or attend a checkout if they prefer. Now, the 3 new sites in Chiswell Street Express in central London, with Fulham Reach Express in Parrs Way, London, and Aston University Express in Aston, Birmingham, are due to open in the next few months. I have to say, okay, now I think the Fulham one is open. There is a video I'm going to play for you here. This is very, very interesting, okay? So you basically go in this store, you can pick your items, okay? And then you can basically use a checkout free app to leave the store. It is honestly very, very clever. I mean, it kind of thinks like Inspector Gadget has come into a supermarket and made the shopping experience very unique. I mean, Zach, what do you make to Tesco trialling this Get Go hybrid system across the UK? Do you think a wider rollout is expected over the coming months?
I think it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, the idea itself is really interesting. So, you go into a store, it's like an easy way to shop. So you don't have to go to checkout. You just go in, scan your QR code, and then pick up whatever shopping you have. You've obviously got loads of cameras and detection to see what items you picked up as well. Now, obviously, when you pick up an item, it may obviously going to charge you, but it actually doesn't charge you until you get out of the store. So that it uses a lot of technology in the cameras on the food items as well to detect what you picked up, what you put in your item bag as well, what you took. And yeah, so there's obviously being technology bound as well. There's obviously a few disadvantages to it. There's a lot of, there could be parameter errors. There's obviously technology replaces human jobs as well, which is obviously another bit of problem as well because it means less staff as well. But it's only in Tesco Express stores, so it doesn't really hire much stuff anyway as well. So you scan the QR code, entrance, you shop as usual. It uses a combination of cameras and weight sensors. It tells you what you picked up, and once you leave the store with your items, it will charge you automatically for them as well. And then you go on to do the payment there afterwards. So I think it's a good idea in general. I mean, without the waiting at queuing at checkouts half the time or using that sort of thing, it can be really boring having to queue for your shopping. So using Express stores like quick get in, get out, get whatever you need, and then leave. I think it's generally, in principle, a good idea, and I hope to see it trialed extensively, tested well, clean up any food improvements. But I think it's a good idea in general. I think, Charlie.
It's a very, very unique experience. It's been around since High Holborn when they opened that one in October of 2021, where the average shopper takes 3 minutes to complete their shop using the app. It's very, very clever, I have to say. when you look at this, okay, like this is what I'm talking about, an actual like designed get-go experience, you know, like scanning shopping is like the new necessity, but then using this, it's very, very clever. Now, I'm going to play for you a short little video now of a Tesco manager of a store in High Holborn explaining how the get-go system works. Have a listen to what this Tesco colleague has to say. Have a listen to this.
Since the launch of our first Get-Go store in High Holborn, we've listened to lots of feedback and we've taken lots of learnings. So I'm really excited to share with you today our new hybrid shopping experience in Fulham Reach, where customers can choose to pay using the app or through the checkouts in the store. Here's how it works. To try our new frictionless technology, simply open the Tesco Groceries app, select Get-Go from the settings section of your profile page, and check your payment details are up to date. We anonymously track the items you select using specialist technology from Trigo that monitors the movements as you walk around the store. We don't store any customer images or data, but assign a unique ID to you as you enter the store. You can also shop with friends and family by simply scanning them in on your app, and then you choose to use a self-scan checkout where a colleague will always be on hand to help, or by simply scanning your app as you exit the store. It's really important to us that our stores are a place where everyone feels welcome. We know that our customers appreciate the ease of being able to shop quickly through a checkout-free store, but we're making the Get-Go experience accessible to more customers who want to try it, ensuring we remain easily the most convenient for everyone. Our hybrid stores will help us to do just that, combining the convenience of a frictionless shop with the option to use a self-service checkout, and always alongside helpful, friendly service from our colleagues. It's really easy to get started, so why not give it a try?
Thank you there to Tesco News there for that video there on the Get-Go store. I have to say as well to any colleagues who are in store, okay, this doesn't cover just Get-Go stores, it covers all of them as well. Anybody, okay, who is unsure of a product, please ask the employees to help you find it. Even like Tesco have an app called Inform, where basically a staff member can show you where like a product is, if it's in stock or anything. I'm sure many supermarkets have got apps or programs, devices in that, Honeywell's forever, where literally you can just type a product in and it's there. You can see if it's in stock, because trust me, you want to make the shopping experience very, very important. And I think that is exactly what you need. You need to have a positive shopping experience. That is what I would argue. So yeah, that's what I think. Comment down below, guys, what you make to the Tesco Get-Go trial. Do you think more stores across the UK should be rolling this technology out? Let me know. Now, it is time now to talk all about the latest newspaper headlines. Okay, we've got a few papers that have already been officially released. Let's have a look at them now. The newspaper goes for pensions blow for people in their 40s, work until age 70. Oh, the pensions row is back again. State pension age most likely to be 69s or 70, born if the UK government to stay within spending guidelines. Also, as well, families face £700 waiver tax funds. And also, leak reveals scale of Putin's global cyber warfare. That comes after the US condemns the arrest of a WSJ journalist in Russia. Russia still continuing with their barbaric invasion of Ukraine, with Bakhmut once again at the front of attack. The Daily Star goes for a psycho killer. Chatbots are befuddled by a Wordle. Genius supercomputers may be about to kill us all and conquer the whole world. But of course, as that mentioned, psycho chatbots are befuddled by Wordle. Now, the Independent goes with an Afghan pilot's impassioned letter to the Prime Minister. I was proud to fight with UK forces, so don't send me to Rwanda. It's a disgrace. Viewers Keir Starmer backs our campaign to stop the deportation of a war hero. Sign a petition to support Afghan refugee veterans. So they've actually launched a petition linked on the front of the paper, which you can go and sign. And also the Metro goes for Olivia Gun Killer Guilty, that is the name of Thomas Cashman, who unfortunately murdered Olivia Pratt-Corbell last year. Zach, what do you make to the latest newspaper headlines?
Yes, I'm glad we get a few papers, actually. I know it's only just turned 10 o'clock, actually. Actually, another one has just been released whilst I've just refreshed the page, and no one's been released, the Financial Times. So let me start on that, actually, because it's just been released. China warns Europe not to follow US call for trade curbs as well. So this is obviously the fact, just looking at this front page as well, this is a story based on the fact that Europe should reject Washington's demand to curb trade with Beijing, a senior Chinese diplomat has said. As well, the EU have sort of criticised the China today as well. The von der Leyen stresses de-risking the goal as well. Sorry, have I people just get that off the screen? There we go. As well, but yeah, so this is obviously the war on words has continued on. China has continued to follow into the EU now as well. He said the Chinese diplomat, who in their right mind would abandon such a thriving market as big as China? Well, I do wonder why. Maybe to the diplomat saying maybe it's because of your genocidal treatment of certain minorities there, your threats to to a threat to the others across internal trade, or breaking of the rules. Maybe that's why they want to lower the trade links a little bit. Maybe that's just, I wonder why. Yeah, I think I've got the reason right. It's just well, they've also got as well the Financial Times, Hamza Yousaf's first session as first minister, he was elected the SNP leader this week. Well, 52-48. As well, he won the SNP leadership. He completed his first minister question today, which was interrupted 5 and 6 times today by environmental protesters up in the gallery. As well, for his first FMQs, it certainly was eventful as well, I have to say, in many instances as well. Now, interesting enough, there may well be a by-election on the way in Scotland, because remember Margaret Ferrier, the one that caught COVID and then decided decided to send the virus onto a train and several other locations. Now, the Standards Committee has been in action investigating her, as well as the Standards Commissioner, and they have recommended a 30-day suspension in the House of Commons. Now, that triggers the Petition of Recall Act as well, because obviously the suspension is so long, it triggers the Petition of Recall, which means that if a petition of recall gets 10%, then there will be a by-election. It's likely to hit the 10% required to be able to trigger a by-election. So then Margaret Ferrier, the independent MP, is now going to be facing possibly a by-election, and probably her last couple of days last period in Parliament now. Now this seat that she's in is in an SNP. Labour been battleground for the last couple of years as well. Labour looks like could be quite good if they stick a good candidate in there. Given the SNP's sort of turmoil over the last few months, they could be good to stick a candidate in there and potentially take that seat from the SNP as well. But who knows? We're going to get to that when the by-election comes along, if it does come along as well, and that petition of recall is triggered. The I goes as well. Let's do the I. Pensioners blow for people in their 40s working until age 70. Now, Mel Stride made a statement today in the Commons saying that the state pension age will be frozen for now. Because the actual, if you think about it, there's been studies recently saying that the length of someone who's living has actually declined in the last few years as well. The duration of how long someone long, the average age when someone long lives for, age expectancy is as well is life expectancy has slowed down a little bit. So the decision raising the pay extension state pension age from 68 to 70 has been delayed for at least 2 years after the next general election. But the state pension age will still rise to 69 over the next year or so as well. We're in the spending guidelines as well. So at some point, the state pension age will reach 70 as well. But obviously, a lot of criticism over that as well. The fact is that pensions age is going up potentially in the future. means that people are having to work longer to be able to get for their owners and that sort of thing as well. The Guardian goes on for very. I think it's a good thing they've covered this. The Guardian actually they've gone on with a wave of rising bills and tax rises due coming from next week leaves families almost £700 a year worse off. Now, this week is the end of the this year's tax season. From April onwards, we're going to enter a new financial tax code season as well. As April is the time where the tax code changes are going into effect as well. You may know the corporation tax increase is going into effect from April, from next week basically as well. That's going into effect 6th of April. That's when it's actually going in. It will range from utility and food bills. We hit out on £50,000 income with extra cost. As well, and also phone bills, water bills, others as well. Council tax bills are going up by as well. So a lot of tax increases coming in the next few weeks, should I say as well. So this is going to be for those on low income. This is going to be a very costly measure for them as well. Who would have thought it'd be the Conservatives that be introducing this tax rise out of all the parties that introduced this? Bloody heck! I have to say as well. We never knew that Conservatives are related to high taxes or anything as well. It must be. That's an interesting one, but nevertheless, the Daily Star. Well, their usual interesting front cover. Psycho killer chatbots are befuddled by Wordle. Genius superhero computing may be about to kill us and I'll conquer the whole world. Well, interestingly enough, I know I discovered Chat GPT the other day. Which is an interesting little chat thing that can sort of predict what you can say in type AI language, all sorts of thing. But I don't expect evil robots are going to be about to kill me quite yet. Maybe in 100 years' time in the future. But I'm not scared of robots for now. I can't imagine the Daily Star imagine me this current scene at the moment. Friendliest, clever AI chatbots should take over the world and kill us all are no good at Wordle. So obviously, the developers have not made the system very good enough for the fact that Wordle, come on, robots, you're supposed to be better at this. You can predict language, but can't use Wordle. Not good enough. Not good enough at all. Independent goes for the fact that this is the an innocent Afghan pilot, as well as war hero, who is actually facing deportation to Rwanda. This is a disgraceful story, actually. He arrived in the UK on a small boat after fleeing Afghanistan, as well. Has directly appealed for sanctuary in Britain. In open letter, he wrote, I asked for help in return for the help I once gave to your people. Instead, you have threatened me to force me to deport me to Rwanda. As well, the independent assessment petition. The Keir Starmer has backed the independence campaign on this one, saying that the deportation is a disgrace, and it's a pilot being forced out who fought alongside British troops in Afghanistan, and well done to him as well for doing that. Now, obviously, he's fled the war, and the only way he's managed to get his go on a small boat and dinghy. Now he's faced deportation for going on a small boat to Rwanda. He wants to settle in here to the UK as well. I have to say, he should not be deported. He's a hero. And he did many things, and the only innocent thing he did was fleeing the country. And very well, he should have a right to stay here, I think, in the UK as well. And the Metro goes for Olivia Gunkiller guilty. The cowardly gunman who killed Olivia Pratt-Coble in his own home has been found guilty of murder. This is obviously the story that we mentioned earlier as well, of Thomas Cashman, who's a high-level drug dealer. He denied that he shot a man on the street, then fired inside a house, killing Olivia 9, who caused a shot to the chest as well. So that's the story earlier. And then obviously you can see as well, Kim Comedy, this is Prince Charles as well. Touring Berlin today, he made a speech to the German Parliament as well, obviously trying to close the royal tie between the Germans and the British as well. This is the first royal monarch that has addressed the German Parliament in its history as well. And so today has been a very important street as well. It's been good to see him address the German Parliament as well. I have to say as well, it's really good. But there are no more papers at the moment. So that is the papers for the 31st of March tomorrow.
The last day of March as well tomorrow. Wow. How quick can a month go already? Now it's time for your heroes and villains of the week. And my hero this week is going to go to someone called Jeremy Scott, who's an American fashion designer, who made a collection of, let's be honest with you, he turned these car parts into sculptures from old Hyundais. You can see there are Hyundai hubcap, what appears to be some kind of like timing belt, whatever over there. Jeremy Scott has actually made some sculptures, like this kind of weird old sculpture here, which actually looks quite cool, if I'm honest with you. I mean, who would have thought you could actually put a sculpture using car parts? I mean, look at this. There's some headlights from like a Hyundai literally mounted on a sculpture. I mean, that is quite cool, actually. I have to give him credit for that. I mean, that is cool. Look, keys, key rings, some like metal rod screws and that. Welcome to your fashion gallery of car parts. This reminds me of a Top Gear automotive art episode. Does anyone remember that episode where they go through like James May making his automotive face out of car parts? Oh wow. I definitely think that was funny enough. So that Jeremy Scott's going to get my nomination for the hero of the week. This is amazing, honestly. I really, really think that's so unique, honestly. I have to say. And my villains of the week, I've got two villains actually. Number one is Thomas Cashman for murdering Olivia Pratt-Corbell. I think that was just an absolute vile murder. Now, my second nomination will be a surprising one to many people, because it's going to go to someone who actually, you know what? I'm going to give my second nomination to Michael Massey. Now, the reason I'm going to give it to Michael Massey is because he appeared today in the Formula One paddock in Australia today. Now, for a start, okay, if you've not seen my social media pages today, I've vented my anger at Michael Massey again today. Now, yes, you're in Australia, okay, but Michael Massey has still been, I think, one of the biggest hypocrites in Formula One history for allowing a Abu Dhabi Grand Prix race in 2021 to be ruined by his misjudgment on the final lap. Yes, that's all gone, but Michael Massey, in my opinion, I do not understand how Formula One allowed him into the paddock for, just in general, for the F1 weekend, given that he is no longer officially a race director. Yes, you could probably allow him in the paddock, but for him to be chatting with teams, especially given Lewis Hamilton today said he didn't want to talk to him, well, it shows you that Formula One still believe, and I've been hearing as well that he's also going to be helping out with the V8 supercars this week. Well, if you're a race director, just do your V8 supercars role, not get involved in more Formula One pornography or whatever. It's a bit interesting. So, Michael Massey and Thomas Cashman get my villains this week. Zach, what do you make to my nominations there?
Michael Massey, I have to say as well, by the way, yeah, he's obviously Australian himself, but he's there to, obviously, he's involved with the Australian supercars, which are in Melbourne this weekend. So probably unsurprisingly, he's there as well, in the paddock, as well, catching up with a few friends and probably bumping into a few foes on the way as well, very interestingly enough as well. Right, let's get on to my heroes and villains of this week. My hero this week goes to, speaking of Australia, I'm going to give my hero this week to someone called Darren Kemp. He is a gold digger. Interesting enough, he's a professional gold digger, experienced prospector as well, and he goes around digging, gold and all that sort of thing as well. He this week dug out a different kind of gold. I mean, he found a gold stone weighing 10.1 pounds, more than half which is gold, and one of the largest finds of golds in Australian history. You expected to see it for the 1800s, 50s in black and white. Well, it's 2023 though, and he's found a massive 10.1 pounds of gold as well. Now, when they did it, when he snuck out the gold as well, they evaluated it as well, and they found that the gold nugget, was worth $160,000. Whew! $160,000 of gold digging, literally just found there. Pretty incredible stuff as well. It's a very valuable item. So, Darren Kemp gets the hero of the week for me as well. My villain this week, I don't know how to decide on the villain this week. My villain is going to go to Benjamin Netanyahu, interestingly enough, the Prime Minister of Israel. And the reason why I'm giving it to him, this week, his country has faced turmoil. He tried to push through, obviously, these judicial reforms where the Parliament can override Supreme Court decisions that they make, because they can strip it of its power. He recently passed a bill that could mean that they could not remove him as Prime Minister unless he was seriously ill or anything like that as well. So basically a power grab. And he also sacked his defense minister as well over the week as well, which prompted a huge outrage in the streets. More than 500,000 Israelis taking the streets of Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, and many other areas while protesting against the judicial review and decision he's made. The protest was so much that even unions went on strike. Everyone in the industry went on strike to the point where society stopped, and Netanyahu had no choice but to pause the judicial reforms as well. Now, by the way, he hasn't dumped it. He's pausing for now, and it shall come up in the future. But Benjamin Netanyahu has made himself his own enemy with these very fascist judicial reforms. And he gets the the villain for me this week as well. They're obviously the hero this week was Darren Kemp from Australia as well.
Plenty of great news there from this week's show, and we'll be back again next week for another edition of the Charlie Tyre Show. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Take care, and we'll see you next time for more great content. Take care, and good night.